Thank you so much. I am honored to be here. I wasn't really expecting to be speaking, so I was expecting to come here to listen to you. And I'm sorry I missed the morning session, so I may repeat something, or there may be some contradictory remarks from my side. Me being a practitioner on the field, I've been a correspondent, and I try to draw my own conclusions from covering the Arab Spring in one country from the other, actually all the Arab countries for the time, except for Yemen. I was also in Libya, for instance. And I think that the main message from the Arab Spring is still relevant, and it can still be concluded in the words from the Egyptian streets, Aish, Huriya, Adala Ijtamiya, bread, freedom, and social justice. And I think this is relevant for any political movement. And also what I saw in these days is that the revolution in Egypt, for instance, was not spearheaded by the Islamist movements. Of course, the young Muslim brothers were there on the street, but the old guard jumped on the bandwagon at a later stage. Now, if we go from the Arab nations to Iran, I think that it's interesting to ask oneself the question if there are any lessons to be learned from the Iranian example. I know that Dr. Sajjadpour spoke about Iran earlier this morning, and I missed the chance to listen. But, I mean, Iran today, this very day is celebrating the 39th anniversary of its revolution, and are there then lessons to be learned in this nation where the vast majority of the population is born after the revolution, which is very important. Ayatollah Khomeini had a famous saying when he said that the Islamic revolution is not about the price of watermelons. But today, indeed, the message that I get from Iranian street, it's very much about the price of watermelons or other food items or fuel, job creation, good governance, accountability. And the same goes, of course, for the Arab world or Europe. This is relevant for anybody in power. And this also says that people need less ideology and more solutions to their everyday problem. If we leave the big challenge with Trump aside, which is, I mean, it's a discussion as such, but there is no time to go into that. But if we look upon the domestic field in Iran, having traveled there a lot over the years, what I hear is the same message that we got from the social protest this winter, that the money coming from a partial lifting of the sanctions has not led to a trickle-down economy that reaches the poor masses, and there are many. And there are also polls indicating that Iranians, ordinary Iranians, don't feel that their economy has improved. On the contrary, there are polls showing that they feel that it has decreased the household income. And this is also a lesson learned from the Iranian Revolution, that people on the street demand solutions for their everyday problem. And we do have the big cases that Magnus mentioned, for instance, the urbanization problem and environmental problem. If you go to Iran, one of the things that you really notice is the grievances about not only climate change, but also water mismanagement, which is affecting the livelihood of everybody. In Isfahan, this great city, there is a fantastic river, Zayan Darud. I think it means the one who's giving life, Zayan Darud. But now the waterbed is dried out. It's very depressing for the Isfahanis. And it's not only about climate change, it's also about mismanagement. That's one of the messages here. Another one is about gender politics. Iran, as many Arab nations, need women empowerment for the national economy. And it's really crucial for the growth of the economy, and these are issues to be addressed. What's happening in Iran now, it does have a very young population, but the birth rate is decreasing. I think the last figures that I saw was that the birth rate is 1.3 children per woman, which is, for instance, much less than Sweden, whereas we have a much higher employment rate of women. So when I was in Iran the last time, I met with a woman parliamentarian who said, we need to learn from Sweden. How can you make it have high rate of female employment and a higher birth rate, which is sustainable? And I think these are also lessons to be learned for any movement who wants to be relevant for the future in the region. Another issue is, of course, what happens with the skilled, bright people. There is a brain drain from the region. I mean, we see it from Egypt, we see it in Iran, we see it from so many countries. There must be politics taking care of the brilliant minds in the region to make them stay at home. If I go to Sharif University in Tehran, which is one of the elite universities, many students consider admittance to the university to be like a one-way ticket abroad, which is so detrimental for the country. And these are issues for political Islam to address as well. If we look upon some of the polls, there is one made by Maryland University. You may say that it's not the perfect one, but it comprises 1,000 interviews, the error rate is 3.1%, etc. And on the question, in your opinion, how good or bad is your country's general economic situation? Now, 40% say it's very bad, and this is an increase since last year, so the grievances are growing. And I also find that there is a high demand for improved social services. Social services are to a large extent provided by registered NGOs, which employ many non-skilled workers, often women, on low-paid jobs. But the pricing system, and I think this is important as well, for products and services by the NGOs are often set by government procurers, which leads to a stagnancy and obstacles for real growth in the economy. I know that President Rouhani has addressed this issue, that he's talking about the need to make the private sector grow. We also know that when he presented the budget to the parliament, this fueled the protest because it showed more transparency in the economy. But on the overall situation, and not to repeat myself too much, I think that the lesson learned from 39 years of Islamic Republic in Iran is in a way the same thing that we hear from the Arab Spring, that resounds still from the Arab Spring. People want accountability, transparency, solutions to their everyday problem. And they want end of mismanagement of the national wealth and the resources. So, to conclude with, the price of watermelons do matter.